Welcome to On the Vineyard, a 10-minute weekly wrap-up of news from the Vineyard Gazette Media Group on Martha's Vineyard. I'm publisher Monica Brady-Meyerov. We're so glad you're here. On the Vineyard is sponsored by Crane Appliance. After a very busy weekend of holiday events, a cozy blanket of snow covered the holiday decorations and the island on Sunday. This week, a scathing report about the Steamship Authority's inability to deliver a new website.
The Inspector General really took him to task over deciding to build a new website first before overhauling the reservation system.
More on that story in a moment. Christmas in Edgartown gets bigger every year with more activities and more visitors. The streets were so crowded in Edgartown that if it weren't for the winter parkas, you might think it was a weekend in August. There was a European-style outdoor market, multiple crafts fairs, and shops offering deep discounts in order to make way for next year's inventory.
Extra, extra! Martha's Vineyard News!
Hundreds of people lined Main Street and Water Street to catch a glimpse of Santa or catch a folded newspaper hat, which we throw out from the back of the Gazette's red Chevy truck. That's the sound of the historic press in the Vineyard Gazette offices in Edgartown printing the paper. And that means it's time to go upstairs to the newsroom and check in with Bill Evell.
Turning now to the news, the hospital announced that its new president will be Claire Seguin. She takes over for outgoing president Denise Shapisi, who has been here for 8 years. And this week, hospital staff held a celebration in her honor. Turning now to Ethan Genter. Ethan, you did the story. Tell us a little bit about Claire and what folks can expect. It is a familiar face. She's been at the hospital for many years now, but when did she get here and what has she been doing at the hospital so far?
So Claire joined in 2019 and she jumped right into the thick of it. She was promoted to the vice president of operations position in 2020. I think literally just 10 days before the World Health Organization declared a global pandemic. So she worked with Denise to guide the hospital through that, brought more testing here to the Vineyard. The hospital played a pretty critical role at that time. She's, reading her resume, very much a go-getter. She's the chief nursing officer right now. She's also running that position for the Nantucket Cottage Hospital, which is part of the same organization with Mass General Brigham. But yeah, everyone we talked to had very high praise for her. She's been Denise's right-hand man for this whole time during Denise's tenure.
Yeah, you never want to say it's an easy decision on who comes next, but Claire's bio and what she's done at the hospital is pretty darn impressive.
I think there was a large search, but everyone said we did a thoughtful and thorough process, and it was head and shoulders Claire.
And it was a really lovely moment at the hospital on Wednesday when everybody lauded Denise, and Claire was right there too, really talking about what a mentor she was to her.
Yeah, Gwen Skiles, our reporter, covered that, and she said a lot of these folks really, they leaned on each other and grew their leadership qualities together at the hospital here.
Yeah, really going through the tough times of COVID and things like that. All right, thanks, Ethan. Turning now to a bit of an explosive report that landed this week from the Inspector General, really taking the Steamship Authority, in particular its outgoing leader, Bob Davis, to task for the long and very expensive journey of the new website. Ethan, tell us what was in this report and what's going on.
The Inspector General's report said that the Steamship Authority wasted millions of dollars in what they called a cascade of failures in putting the website before the much-needed repairs to the reservation system. To lay the scene here, the website has been this long, lumbering process.
We've been all waiting for it for a long time.
Yeah, it's a long, lumbering process. They started to really look at it in 2020, and then in 2022 contracted to hire someone to work on this. And then a couple years later and a few $1 million later, they shelved that process. And what the Inspector General report that came out on Thursday said was the steamship really kind of put the cart before the horse in this situation. We've all had issues trying to get reservations at the Steamship Authority. People have seen the website crash on opening day reservations for the summer. A lot of the issues really stem from the reservation system. We have this antiquated 1990s reservation system that is owned by a man in his 70s who's looking to retire.
That's always the strangest part of the story. That's this one man in his 70s who holds the key to all of this.
Lives in Wisconsin, and so there's always been some concern of, what happens if this guy just kind of closes up shop. So this has been a concern for a long time, but the Inspector General really took him to task over deciding to build a new website first before overhauling the reservation system.
Which then was scrapped and the money wasted.
Yeah, that was scrapped in 2024. They decided, hey, we really need to put the reservation system first. Theoretically, some of that work on that website can still be used going forward whenever the reservation system was done. So they haven't pointed to anything illegal really in this situation, but there was a lot of questions about, was the right procedure followed? Should this have been put out to different people to deal with? Why did we decide the website was so important before dealing with the underlying issues?
And an interesting facet of something landing with this kind of thud, I mean, there is a change in leadership, so you might be like, okay, the old leadership, we're moving to the future, but Bob Davis is still going to be around for a year as a consultant, so that raises another question.
Yeah, the Inspector General said one of the points of optimism is there is a new administration coming in. Alex Kryska starts in the new year as the new general manager. What he was concerned about was Bob Davis is continuing on as a senior advisor, and what does that mean? Does that influence still stay there? Does that hinder Kryska's ability to do his job? He even questioned some of the reasons why we decided to keep Bob in the senior advisor position moving forward. There was some blame laid at the feet of the Steamship board about a lack of oversight into the website project and just how this all unfolded under their watch as well, along with Bob.
And so we'll keep following this, and already local legislators are weighing in on this same issue of the next year consulting. So we will follow the story and keep you up to date on what happens next.
You can read more on these stories and all the news for free at vineyardgazette.com. I want to take you back to Christmas in Edgartown and into Donaroma's Evening of Enchantment, the land of northern lights. At the door, they handed out paper glasses, like in a 3D movie.
And on the back side, it is all the places on the property that we have decorated for you to go visit. Some things are outside and some things are inside.
There were 10 things to visit on the property, including a Northern Lights spectacle on the ceiling. And if you wore the glasses, they promised a snowflake in every point of light. Artist and islander Allison Shaw was delighted by how the glasses transformed the scenery.
So it's so cool. They're like snowflakes everywhere. So everywhere there's a light, there's a flake around it. It's really wild. I don't know how they did that, but it makes it more magical than it already is on its own.
This year was the inaugural year of a gingerbread house building contest put together by Portfolio Properties, a real estate firm run by a former baker. There were 8 entries, and almost all were homes or locations on the vineyard. The winner was Deb Daly and her gingerbread rendition of the old Wailing Church. She captured it down to the red brick sidewalk in front of the church.
I knew there was red for the bricks, so the red trident gun for the bricks and the green for the trident gun, and it fit perfectly. I'm like, okay, that was amazing. And I'm like, oh my word, what am I going to do for columns? But I got that idea later from my neighbor. What am I going to do should I open the doors or leave the doors closed? I left the doors closed. What should I do for the roof? That was another issue my husband and I were trying to think. And then I thought about the flat Hershey bars, but then it was so heavy.
But she managed to put the steeple on top and not collapse the roof. Congratulations. We are nearing the end of Hanukkah, so I thought I'd share an archival memory of Hanukkah from Anne Kronig, who explains the significance of the menorah.
The menorah, that's the candelabra that they use at Hanukkah. It's an 8-branched candelabra. That's what Hanukkah is about. Supposedly, the temple had been defiled by the pagans. There had been sacrifices done in the temple. And then the Hebrews took it back. So the story goes that there was a cruse of oil, a container of oil, that supposedly there was enough to burn for one day. And the story goes that it lasted 8 days. So this was the miracle, that they had an oil that burned for 8 days. So there's an 8-branch candelabra in memory of Hanukkah, and that's the holiday.
Thank you to the Martha's Vineyard Museum and Lindsay Lee for this archival audio. And happy Hanukkah. Our theme music is from island composer and musician Michael Hayden. If you like the show, please follow us so you won't miss an episode. And also follow us on Instagram at On the Vineyard Podcast. And tell a friend who loves the vineyard. Thanks to our sponsor, Crane Appliance. Their appliance experts listen to your needs and help you choose the right appliances for your home. Crane Appliance. They call the Cape and Islands home. I'm Monica Brady-Myrov. Thanks for joining us on The Vineyard. Talk to you next week when I'll have a special edition of a look back at the year in news.